I know it's not an on-track result, but it's a pretty big moment, so I think we've got to do it. Play the song. I am absolutely shocked, stunned, almost speechless about today's news. No, not Shane van Gisbergen going full-time to Cup, but by the number. He's going to be number 88 in the Cup Series. Yes, Shane van Gisbergen, it was just announced, just made official. He will be full-time competing in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2025 in a third Trackhouse car. We have the number, we have the crew chief, we have some details. We don't quite have the sponsorship lineup yet, but we have quotes, we have all of that to talk about the decision itself from Trackhouse. So let's dive straight into it. Let's go to the press release. They just finished up the press conference actually, but the press release says this. What began as a one-off Project 91 race in 2023 and continued as a successful Xfinity Series campaign in 2024 will turn into a full-time NASCAR Cup Series season in 2025 for New Zealander Shane van Gisbergen. Trackhouse Racing announced today that it has acquired a third charter for the three-time Supercars champion, who will join Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez in the team's 2025 Cup Series lineup. And then team owner, founder Justin Marks said this. This is a big day in so many ways for Trackhouse Racing, Shane, Chevrolet, and race fans around the world. This is an important step for our organization, and it's a credit to the men and women at Trackhouse Racing whose hard work and success the last few years has led us to expanding to 3 Cup teams in 2025. It's also a big step up for Shane, who took a chance on Trackhouse Racing, moved here from New Zealand, and now joins the most competitive stock car racing series in the world. Everyone will get to watch one of the world's racing superstars compete in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. Then SVG said this. This is what I have planned for, and I am ready. I know there is a tough learning curve ahead, but the best way to learn is go out and do it. I feel I have made progress running the Xfinity Series this year with Colleague Racing, and I can't thank everyone there enough. I look forward to the Cup Series. Those drivers and teams are the best in the world, and it will be an honor to be a part of their series. And then moving on to the number. The number is 88. Get yourself a good look at the number font. Couple of colors here. We got blue and red. Then it goes on to say this. Van Gisbergen's Chevrolet will carry the number 88 in 2025. That car number has been driven to victory lane 76 times in NASCAR history by legends including Dale Earnhardt Jr., Darrell Waltrip, Dale Jarrett, Donnie Allison, Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Buddy Baker, and others. Then we got the crew chief as well. Steven Duran, 38, will serve as the number 88 crew chief in 2025. Duran, in his first year as a NASCAR Cup Series crew chief, working with driver Zane Smith on the number 71 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet. The Butler, Pennsylvania native began his NASCAR career in 2006 at Petty Enterprises and worked as Kevin Harvick's lead engineer at Stewart-Haas Racing from 2014 to 2023. So yes, as I said, we got a good bit of detail from this. Now, the way we talked about it yesterday, Trackhouse, just less than 24 hours ago, maybe 24 hours, almost exactly. But anyways, 24 hours ago, let's just call it even 24 hours ago, Trackhouse released a statement saying that the team, and Zane Smith had parted ways. They signed about this time last year. Shane van Gisbergen and Trackhouse signed about this time last year. So that meant that Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Zane Smith, and Shane van Gisbergen, that's 4 guys, were all under contract with Trackhouse Racing. Trackhouse has not been quiet on wanting to expand. It has been well known that they wanted to expand operations, expand their team so they could have more drivers, more cars, be more competitive. And ultimately, they've only been able to expand to 1 car, or they will only be able to expand to 1 car. And when the opportunity presented itself, it came down to Zane Smith versus Shane van Gisbergen. Justin Marks talked about it a little bit in his press conference, didn't really want to go into a ton of detail. He went into some detail, but not like, every single second of it. but ultimately said that it came down to he wanted to put Shane in the car, and then also said it came down to the commercial opportunities when they were getting approached by partners and they had to get the deal done. So the opportunity presented itself. Shane van Gisbergen obviously has had success in NASCAR, and while he is still learning the ovals, he's still figuring it out. He's so competitive on the road courses, it's hard to overlook, and he's a great look in terms of, if you're a sponsor, the opportunity, the story that he has, the following that he has, that you can really, it's huge. It really is. So just everything came together. Shane van Gisbergen's had a pretty decent rookie season in the Xfinity Series. So everything came together. Everything made sense. So Justin Marks pulled the trigger on it. They pulled the trigger over at Trackhouse on Shane van Gisbergen full-time in 2025. Now, as for everything else, as for this charter itself, Trackhouse has acquired a third charter. This was expected. This was anticipated. Justin Marks was directly asked, I think it was Bob Pockers who said, hey, where'd you get the charter from? And he said, well, what would you guess? What's your guess? And yeah, so Bob guessed Stewart-Haas. And yeah, so Justin Marks didn't directly say, yes, we got it from Stewart-Haas, but we can pick up it came from Stewart-Haas Racing, meaning Stewart-Haas Racing, their charters have now been sold to Trackhouse, Front Row, and then, of course, Gene Haas kept one for himself to keep the Haas factory team alive, meaning there's one more for either RFK, 2311, probably 2311, but RFK is now in that mix, and that's a whole other story. But, yes, so we've covered Shane van Gisbergen. It's official. He's in the Cup Series in 2025. We've covered the charter. They've acquired a third charter. Justin Marks even expressed confidence that while the charter negotiation deals aren't exactly in a great place right now, he said they pulled the trigger on this now because he doesn't expect the charter system to go away. He's pretty confident it's still going to be a thing. So when you have the opportunity, when you have the resources in every single factor in every single facility, why not pull the trigger on this thing? Why not do it? And ultimately, that is what it came down to. Next thing we got to talk about, the number. Obviously, Shane van Gisbergen, this is going to be his, let's see. He debuted in the 91 car in the Cup Series. Then he ran the 41 truck in the Truck Series. 97 in Xfinity, 16 in Cup this year. So this will be his fifth different number in just 3 years of NASCAR. Obviously, the number 88 with NASCAR fans is most known as of recently with Dale Earnhardt Jr., even though Alex Bowman was the last driver to drive that number, the last driver to win in that number. It is very well known for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who drove that race car number for the last 8-9 years of his career at Hendrick Motorsports. Justin Marks said he talked to Dale Jr., talked to Kelly Earnhardt Miller about the number, called up Jeff Gordon, even at Hendrick Motorsports. And I will say, so this morning, when it was reported that Trackhouse had a driver announcement and everyone knew it was going to be SVG, Dale Earnhardt Jr. said something like he was excited for this. He was looking forward to this announcement. And I was like, why does Dale Jr. care so much about Shane van Gisbergen and I was like, that's so weird. I was like, I mean, he loves to see the sport grow. He loves a good story. He loves a good race car driver. But I was like, what? That's so random. And I just kind of brushed it off. Didn't even think about it. I did not think twice about it. I just said, okay, cool. Dale Jr.'s a fan. Neat. And then the instant that 88 got announced, I was like, why 80? Oh, Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove the 80. It all makes sense now. So yes, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the most popular driver in NASCAR for 14 straight years. Well, his number is now being handed off to Shane van Gisbergen. In terms of the number system in NASCAR, numbers are not really assigned to teams. The teams can pick what number they can run. Obviously, it has to be a real number. Like, you can't be number 12,876 or anything. But there are certain situations where if a number's available and you're a team expanding and you pick up that number, it's the honor, the unwritten rule to ask permission, to have the privilege to run that number. So Justin Marks said, we talked to him about it. We wanted to add to the legacy. He also emphasized that with the one car, the 99 car, that when they opened up Trackhouse, he called up Carl Edwards, said, hey, We got this number and we want to continue to build on its legacy, to continue to win races in it. Same thing with the 1 car. And now with this 88 car, it's the same story. As for the 97, I thought it was going to be the 97. That was Shane van Gisbergen's number over in Australia, but ultimately that's just not going to be it. I don't know why. I know Roush Fenway Racing ran it back in the day. Maybe they want to keep that close to heart. They want that to be their number. They want to bring that car back one day. So maybe Roush didn't want them using it and Trackhouse respected that decision. But I don't know. I really don't know. But as for the 88, it's going to be a new number for Shane van Gisbergen. And then there's a little coincidence that Connor Zilic, also a Trackhouse Racing driver, he's going to be racing in the Xfinity Series for Dale Jr. actually next year in the 88 car. So there's a little connection there. And you can speculate all you want on what that means. And then the next piece of business would be the crew chief, Steven Duran. As I said, he's been the crew chief for Zane Smith, a rookie crew chief this year, and he gets to get another rookie next year. Shane van Gisbergen, I'm assuming he'll be classified as a rookie next year. He's only run 10-ish races by the end of 2024, so I think he'll be a rookie in 2025. So it's going to be another rookie campaign for Steven Duran to have another rookie driver. But obviously it was a rough start to the year for Zane Smith, but they've really picked it up as of recent. They've run really well, a couple of top 10s, even a runner-up finish. And they've actually got like an average finish. I think it's 15.8 over the summer. So they've really picked it up. So Steven Duran, Shane van Gisbergen, and the number 88 team at Trackhouse Racing. Sponsors to be announced in the future, paint schemes. That's an end of 2024 calendar-wise, beginning of 2025 thing. But Shane van Gisbergen, who only had, 15 to 18 race weekends a year in supercars, well, he's about to get the full thing. He's going to be running 38 race weekends in 2025. So yes, it's going to be a big year for Shane van Gisbergen next year. Obviously, a lot of expectations, a lot of looks on him. How's he going to do? And what else will he do? Will he run Xfinity? He said that he's talked to Kaulig. He would love to run Xfinity with that team again. He was thankful to Kaulig for putting him in their cars, for giving him the opportunity to run in the Xfinity Series, learn the ovals, and then also to run in the Cup Series as well, which he'll be doing for 7 of the last 12 weekends in 2024, including tonight at Daytona. But it's official. Shane van Gisbergen will be a full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver in 2025. The whole reason he came over to the United States of America, he's now there. And as for everything else that has not been announced now, as I said, it will be announced in the future. Let me know what your thoughts are on this move by Trackhouse, signing Shane van Gisbergen to a full-time Cup Series contract in 2025. And I will talk to you guys in the next video tonight after Daytona, the Cup Series race.